So the Saints always find a way, and they're very happy with Tyler Shuck. Very happy.
How could they not
He's their
be?
guy.
Yeah.
And now they got a running back to go along with him, and they've got Olave, and they're building something, and they're trying to contend again. And all of a sudden, the NFC South could be becoming more interesting.
The New Orleans Saints found the steal of the 2026 draft at pick 190, and he is not even the biggest reason this team is about to take a leap. New Orleans finished 6-11 last season, dead last in the NFC South. And 8 months later, this same roster is being talked about as a division favorite. That is not fan optimism talking. Tyler Shuck posted the best third down passer rating in the entire NFL at 103.3 as a rookie, and the Saints won 4 of their last 5 games with him under center. There is one number from that rookie season that should keep all of us honest, and I am going to give it to you before this is over. The front office spent more than $170 million in the first week of free agency alone. Travis Etienne Jr. arrived on a 4-year deal worth $52 million after rushing for 1,107 yards in Jacksonville. David Edwards signed for 4 years and $61 million with $45 million guaranteed. Chris Olave got a 4-year extension worth up to $132 million after catching 100 passes for 1,163 yards. Then New Orleans used the 8th overall pick on a receiver and spent 2 more picks on receivers anyway. One of those picks came 182 selections after the first one, and it might be the pick that changes Sundays. The defense is where this gets complicated. Brandon Staley took a unit that ranked 30th in yards allowed in 2024 and finished 9th in his first season, and then he lost his starting defensive tackle to a torn ACL on the opening day of camp.
Breaking news, Who Dat Nation. Saints defensive tackle Bryan Bresee suffered a knee injury at day 1 of training camp.
Meanwhile, the Saints handed the NFC South to Carolina with 1 week 18 loss in Atlanta, and the 2026 schedule gives them a chance to take it straight back. But before we jump into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Saints and all the NFL content. The 6-11 record is the least useful number attached to this football team. New Orleans started 2-8 and sat in the top 5 of most November draft projections. Then Tyler Shuck took the job for good, and the Saints went 4-1 from December 7th through January 4th, a stretch that included a 4-game winning streak built on 3 fourth-quarter game-winning drives. That was not a soft schedule illusion either. Shuck threw for 308 yards against the Jets and a career-high 333 yards against the Titans in back-to-back weeks. And he finished the year as an Associated Press Offensive Rookie of the Year finalist. The Chris Olave math tells the story better than the standings do. Over the first 8 games of the season, Olave produced 503 receiving yards on 303 routes, which comes out to 1.7 yards per route run. And his expected points added as a receiver sat at minus 0.6. Over the 8 games with Shuck starting, Olave produced 660 yards on 275 routes. That is 2.4 yards per route, and his expected points added jumped to plus 27.3. Fewer routes, more production, same receiver, same offensive coordinator. The quarterback was the variable. Let me be fair here, because the finish was not clean. New Orleans lost the season finale in Atlanta 19-17 after D. Alford intercepted Shuck and returned it 59 yards inside Saints territory. That single loss handed the NFC South to Carolina at 8-9. Shuck still answered with a 16-yard touchdown to Ronnie Bell with 1 minute and 11 seconds left, and the Falcons recovered the onside kick to end it. New Orleans walked into the offseason with the most promising young quarterback in the division and the worst record in it. The most underrated development of 2025 in New Orleans happened on defense, and almost nobody outside Louisiana noticed. Brandon Staley inherited a unit that surrendered 379.9 yards per game in 2024 and ranked 30th in the league. In his first season, he moved that group to 9th overall at 299 yards allowed per game and 4th in the entire NFL against the pass. New Orleans allowed 4.84 yards per play, which Pro Football Reference lists as the best single-season mark by a Saints defense since 1997. The pass rush came back to life at the same time. The Saints recorded 45 sacks, tied for 8th most in the NFL, along with 84 quarterback hits, and their edge rushers accounted for 28.5 of those sacks by themselves. Cameron Jordyn led the team with 10.5 sacks at 37 years old, the 7th double-digit sack season of his career, and he also led the roster with 15 tackles for loss. Chase Young added 10 sacks, 15 quarterback hits, and 30 pressures after missing the first 5 games of the season. The secondary might be the best part of all of it. Kool-Aid McKinstry started all 17 games in his first year as the #1 corner and finished with 76 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 17 pass breakups.
Dart, intercepted again!
Which tied for 6th in the NFL. Quincy Riley broke up 10 passes as a rookie 4th-round pick.
Williams down the sideline, intercepted! Quincy Riley leaping in front to make the pick, his first NFL interception.
And allowed a 59.7% completion rate in man coverage. Jonas Sankor started 16 games as a rookie.
Of his career and the first of the season for this.
And finished 4th on the team with 80 tackles. Julian Blackmon summed the whole thing up at camp this summer.
Catapult down the field, Thomas, it's intercepted.
When he said year 2 under Staley helps a lot. Now the hard part. The Saints lost Brian Brees for the entire 2026 season on the very first day of training camp, and it happened with nobody touching him. Brees is the 2023 first-round pick New Orleans acquired in the Sean Payton trade with Denver. He started 15 games last season, and he has 14.5 sacks across 49 career games. Kellen Moore confirmed the torn ACL and the season-ending surgery in early August. New Orleans had already exercised his 5th-year option for 2027, worth $13.93 million. So the money is committed and the snaps are gone. Chase Young did not sugarcoat what that means for the rotation. "We need some guys to step up," Young said, and he pointed specifically at Vernon Broughton and John Ridgway III. Broughton played exactly 1 game as a rookie in 2025 before a hip injury ended his year. That is the depth chart now standing behind a player who took 69% of the defensive snaps last season, and it is the single biggest reason to be careful with this team. The losses did not stop at the defensive line. Demario Davis signed with the New York Jets and took the loudest voice on that defense with him. Cornerback Alontae Taylor, who finished 2nd on the team with 83 tackles, is gone. Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau are both gone from the tight end room. And on August 2nd, receiver Jalen Polk retired at 24 years old. 4 practices into camp, less than a year after New Orleans traded a 2027 6th-round pick to New England to get him. The Saints replaced nearly all of it, and that is where this gets interesting. The run game was the single worst part of the 2025 Saints, and it was not close. New Orleans ranked 28th in rushing yards at 94.3 per game and 31st in the NFL at 3.7 yards per carry. Alvin Kamara, now 31 years old, averaged 3.6 yards per carry across 11 games and scored exactly 1 touchdown all season. So Mickey Loomis went out and signed Travis Etienne Jr. to a 4-year deal worth $52 million. And the Jennings, Louisiana native, is coming off 260 carries for 1,107 yards and 7 rushing scores. Etienne also caught 36 passes for 292 yards and 6 receiving touchdowns last season, a total that trailed only Christian McCaffrey among all NFL running backs. Then New Orleans paid David Edwards $61 million over 4 years, with $45 million guaranteed to fix left guard, and ESPN charted Edwards at a 95% pass block win rate in 2025. Edwards now lines up between Kelvin Banks Jr., who started every game at left tackle as a rookie and earned consensus all-rookie honors, and Pro Bowl center Eric McCoy. The defense got restocked at the same time. Caden Ellis came home on a 3-year deal worth $33 million after starting all 17 games in Atlanta with 107 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and 6 pass breakups. And the funny part is that New Orleans originally drafted him in the 7th round back in 2019. Noah Fant arrived to unlock multiple tight end sets alongside Juwan Johnson, who caught 77 passes for 889 yards last year. Martin Emerson Jr. and Anthony Jennings added real depth. Every one of those moves matters, and not one of them is the addition people inside that building keep talking about.
With the 8th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Jordyn Tyson.
New Orleans took Jordyn Tyson 8th overall, making him the highest drafted Arizona State player since 1976. Tyson caught 75 passes for 1,101 yards and 10 touchdowns in 2024, then added 61 catches for 711 yards and 8 scores in only 9 games in 2025, while fighting hamstring injuries in both legs. He is a 2-time third-team Associated Press All-American with a genuine injury file. Take pressure off each other, make our jobs easier, Tyson said about lining up across from Chris Olave. The rest of the class filled real holes. Georgia defensive tackle Kristen Miller went at pick 42 and now has to contribute immediately because of the brees injury. Georgia tight end Oscar Delp went at pick 73 with 70 career catches for 854 yards and 9 touchdowns. Auburn guard Jeremiah Wright, listed at 6 feet 5 and 348 pounds, went at pick 132 after starting every game at right guard in each of his last 2 college seasons. North Dakota State receiver Bryce Lance went at pick 136 after a 51 catch, 1,079 yard season. And then 182 picks after Tyson came off the board, the Saints took Barion Brown at pick 190. Here's the number that matters. Brown returned 65 kickoffs for 1,910 yards in college, averaging 29.4 yards per return with 6 return touchdowns, which stands as a Southeastern Conference record and ranks second in NCAA history. He ran a 4.40 second 40-yard dash. He also led LSU with 53 catches for 532 yards, and Kellen Moore has been blunt about the plan. He's a receiver as well, Moore said. Here's the number I promised you. On throws that traveled more than 20 yards downfield in 2025, Tyler Shuck ranked 29th in the NFL in on-target percentage at 35.9% and 29th in completion percentage at 25.0%. On throws under 20 yards, he ranked 4th and 2nd in those same 2 categories. That is the entire scouting report in one line. New Orleans just spent an offseason adding vertical speed to an offense whose quarterback has not proven he can hit the deep shot yet. The interior offensive line is the second problem. Cesar Ruiz remains the starting right guard and has not played to his draft position, and Jeremiah Wright is a rookie who already left one camp practice with a shoulder injury. Eric McCoy has missed significant time in each of the last 2 seasons, and this offense functions at a visibly higher level when he is on the field. Talise Fuaga started only 13 games last year in an uneven second season after sliding from left tackle over to right tackle. The run defense was also never as strong as the pass defense. New Orleans finished 19th against the run at 120.6 yards allowed per game, though that number deserves context because the Saints faced the 3rd most rushing attempts per game in the league at 30.4 and still finished 2nd in the NFL. In expected points added per rush at minus 0.136. Losing Brian Brees makes repeating that a lot harder. If Kristen Miller is not ready in September, this is the thing that costs New Orleans games. The NFC South is wide open, and every single team in it has a problem. Carolina won the division at 8-9, lost at home to the Rams, 34-31, and just lost edge rusher Nick Scorton for the season with a torn ACL. Tampa Bay started 6-2, finished 8-9, lost Mike Evans, watched Levante David retire, and Baker Mayfield hits free agency after this season. Atlanta hired Kevin Stefanski and opened camp with Michael Penix Jr. and Tua Tagovailoa, both less than fully available. The schedule is honest about what it asks. New Orleans opens on the road at Detroit on September 13th, then travels to Baltimore in Week 2, which means the Saints face 2 of the conference's top Super Bowl betting favorites before they ever play at home. They get Atlanta on Monday night in Week 4, play Pittsburgh and Paris in Week 7, and close with 3 division games over the final 4 weeks, including Tampa Bay at home in Week 18. New Orleans had 0 primetime games in 2025. Here's my call. This team wins 10 games, takes the NFC South outright, and Barion Brown returns a kickoff for a touchdown before Halloween. The offense that got 216.7 passing yards per game out of a rookie now has Chris Olave, Jordyn Tyson, Travis Etienne Jr., and 2 legitimate tight ends, and the defense enters its 2nd season in Brandon Staley's system. Tell me in the comments, where you have the Saints finishing, and subscribe so you catch the breakdown the day the depth chart gets real.